Derek Kelsall, did you ever try to cut your hair while you were at sea by yourself?
No, I can't say I did. No.
But he has made the point several times that it's rather important from his own point of view to maintain standards while he's out there, and standards of self-discipline. And he's always looked after himself extremely well during these long trips. And he did say that before he came in, he would clean himself up and so on, and also clean Gypsy Moth up.
I was going to say, somebody did take out some nice bubbling for him out there, and he might be passing a little time with that. I don't know. Anyway, he'll be in there in a moment.
Take another look at Gypsy Moth there. A lot of film lights on the various press boats and television boats. Television boats, film cameras and so on, around Gypsy Moth. And as soon as Sir Francis had come ashore and been officially welcomed and driven off towards the Guildhall, Gypsy Moth will be towed away upriver, up the Tamar, to the boatyard, where she'll remain for the next few days. A special guard has been arranged to prevent souvenir hunters doing too much damage. A guard dog's laid on, Ross, the guard dog's name, is waiting up at the yard. And I just wonder how many of these small boats are trying to get close enough now to try and get a touch or get some souvenir from Gypsy Moth. Those are the steps that Sir Francis will now have to negotiate. And somewhere out there is the great man himself. I think who might be rather surprised once he settles down and he gets into Plymouth, and if he has time to take a look around the shops and see what's going on, to see the collection of articles that now carry his name. You can buy articles with Chichester on them of almost every conceivable kind. Of course, a great deal has been said, more will be said about the commercial aspect of this voyage. But one thing you can't take away, and it has to be paid for by somebody, the supreme achievement of this man who, remember, during the course of this voyage, qualified for an old age pension. He was 65 last September. And one of the points I'd like to talk to Alan Villiers about is, here's a man who within 3 months of learning to fly was actually flying solo around the world, but wearing very thick glasses indeed. His eyesight obviously not too good. And in fact, he's undertaken this voyage again when you've got a great deal of spray and rough weather knocking about. And what about this problem for him?
Well, indeed, that is a very serious problem, but it is one that he's been accustomed to since childhood. Now, I can't understand, for one thing, how, with this bad vision and thick glasses, how he could even see properly through a sextant. And, of course, that's the reason why he hasn't been using much star navigation, because it's very much more difficult to see stars and to get a good altitude on them. But the sun, I suppose, he could manage, well, pretty well. When he was flying with these thick glasses inside the old leather helmets that people wore, and with big goggles in the open cockpits of the little biplane that he used to fly, well, it must have been very difficult for him indeed to see out properly when he was coming into land and gauge his height with the accuracy that was very necessary in those small planes. And I remember, first knew him about that time, I remember that it took him about 25 hours of dual instruction before he was allowed to go solo. But the astonishing thing was that when he was once allowed and he got up in the air there and the instructor wasn't in the front cockpit of the old biplane, Francis became a splendid pilot very quickly indeed. And of course the same thing has happened in his yachting, a thing that he took up late in life and has made a success of, despite whatever handicaps there might be. And there were plenty, and that vision certainly was a leading one. In fact, he wouldn't get a board of trade license to go to sea as an officer. He couldn't pass the vision tests. And for the same reason, he couldn't qualify for pilot's wings in the Royal Air Force. He just could not see to the proper standards. And of course, the official view is that is sufficient to disqualify you, but it doesn't stop you from flying little aircraft or from sailing the Gypsy Moth, the fourth, around the world.
Let's take a look at the scene from the top of Plymouth Hoe, from our camera beside the Speaking Tower. Light going very, very quickly indeed. As I said before, an almost Mediterranean Sea scene with the lights twinkling now on each of the small ships. And the people who waited patiently all day must be feeling just a little bit disappointed, because from the view that they've got, which is about 200 to 300 yards away from the top of the famous Hoe, they really can't see very much down there. But police launch still patrolling. Have a look at the scene from the William R., the minesweeper, that was the first vessel alongside Gypsy Moth just over 48 hours ago. The BBC minesweeper William R. They picked up Sir Francis on Friday evening at about 5 o'clock and dropped in at a safe distance and has been with him ever since. That's the view that John Earl, our reporter on board, and the camera team and the skipper can see now. They look along the Sound. And meanwhile, we should have Sir Francis on shore in just about 2 or 3 minutes. Something moving in the background. I don't think it's the launch that's going to bring him to shore. Obviously, it's a bit too big. I was talking about the problems of Sir Francis sleeping at sea. In fact, he's only been able to snatch sleep in 2 or 3 hour snatches. There he is on the bridge with his wife, Lady Chichester. And he really looks astonishingly well, he really does. Sunburned, smiling. Of course, I suppose when he arrived in Australia, he'd got the thought in his mind that he'd got to come back. He wasn't too relaxed then, he wasn't in such good condition, but there's no doubt at all that tonight he really is in marvellous form. It is said that he doesn't enjoy publicity and he doesn't enjoy contact with people or big crowds. But this is a moment that he really can relax and savor. And so, Sir Francis Chichester returns home. Ready now to leave the Queen's Harbour Master's launch and set foot back in this country for the first time since he left last August. And my word, he shook off the helping hand. He really doesn't want to be helped. He was worried about his sense of balance, but it looks to me as if he's in perfect form. I think he's just pausing to make sure of the feel of his land legs. But you must remember that for a long time, 9 days at one stretch, this man lived at an angle of 31 degrees. Just tilt your chair back if you don't know what that means.
You're going to have to stagger up to reach you. Well, that's all right. My two legs are not too good. Welcome back, Sir Francis, to Plymouth. The whole world has watched you for the last 9 months with admiration. Can I say that the youth of this country has watched with admiration all you have done? You have lit a beacon for which they are to follow. We all thank God for your return to Plymouth, and we hope now that you will have some peace and quiet.
Thank you very much, my Lord Mayor. I certainly agree with your last sentence. I'd like some peace and quiet. Although you would think that I'd been 4 months alone, I'd have had enough peace and quiet. But I'm looking forward very much to getting ashore and tasting some of the delights of shore life, the change from the sea life. And it gives me an enormous pleasure to return to Plymouth. I look back and think of the great sailors who have left from Plymouth and come back to Plymouth, and to be reckoned amongst one of those is a great honor for me.
And so Sir Francis Chichester returns home in triumph. It's extremely well. Obviously lost a little bit of weight on this return trip, but nothing like the 20 pounds he lost on the way out. Sunburnt and dressed in a navy blue cap, navy blue sweater, and navy blue trousers. And now he's about to step into the comfort of this car. He's saying something about it to the Lord Mayor. It's a bit better than he's been in for the last couple of months. Going back to the studio in just a couple of minutes for the national news, and Sir Francis Chichester will be making his way through the streets of Plymouth to the Guildhall to meet the press of the world. Accompanied, of course, by Lady Chichester, who knows just what it's like to be out at sea, because she, remember, has made 2 transatlantic crossings with Sir Francis. The journey to the Guildhall should take about 15 to 20 minutes. He's going to rest in the green room at the Guildhall, and then after a gap of about a quarter of an hour or half an hour, he's obviously fit enough, and indeed he said that if he was fit enough, he would want to talk to the press of the world. He should be doing that, I would think, in about less than an hour's time. So we come to the end of this transmission, and also to the end of a small piece of history with this remarkable man who, as I said, qualified for his old age pension on the journey to Australia on the way out, safely home from a unique voyage. A man who by now must know his strengths, his limitations, as few men in history have had the chance to know themselves. So with that last look at Gypsy Moth, which is being towed away upriver to the yard, we end this transmission of the return of Sir Francis Chichester and return you now to the studio in London.
The Guildhall in Plymouth, and you see Sir Francis Chichester, a man who's just sailed round the world, waving cheerfully as though he's just stepped off a local ferry.
Francis, can I open the proceedings by, on behalf of all of us here, offering you very sincere congratulations on your fantastic and unique achievement. Secondly, can I say how very grateful we all are to you for coming to tell us about your trip so very soon after you've landed. After 119 days at sea on your own, to be prepared to come and face an audience such as this is indeed the action of a brave man, and we do appreciate it very much indeed.
Yeah. Sir Francis clearly in a buoyant mood, and he's won the press over already.
I feel that for me to introduce you to this gathering is not only unnecessary, but will be almost insulting. So without further ado, with your agreement, we'll go right into the questions. So can I have the first question, please?
John Norman, BBC. Sir Francis, you said in your reports that you trembled at the thought of making contact again with people. You've now ended your voyage, sir. What are your thoughts and your feelings at this very moment?
Can I stand up?
No, I think one might sit down.
But I can't answer this properly with sitting down. I think it's a very difficult question. It's just the sort of question I expect from the BBC, which would tie me up in knots. Can I think about it and answer it at the end of the evening? I might have a solution then. But could you say something more simple for me? Let's see now. I certainly was very agitated when I had to meet people on the voyage when the ship came along. I expect you're referring to that. And I think that what happens here is that I was engaged on a difficult job, I consider, and I needed everything I had, all the energy and everything I had in order to do this job, and imposing anything extra, like having to meet people, made a sort of intolerable strain on me. I disliked it, and I resented it, and tried to avoid it. I just wanted to get on with my job of sailing that boat around the world. It's not a very good answer.
Sir, but it's all over. It's all over now, sir. How do you feel?
Well, the thing is that I can't answer that now yet, you see, because it's one of those awfully difficult questions. If only you could phrase it more simply somehow. What I do feel is that I'm very pleased to be in Plymouth again, to have finished this voyage, and I will admit, quite frankly, that one of the things I really like most in life is to do something that hasn't been done before. This gives me an enormous pleasure and a feeling of satisfaction. But with any worthwhile project that I've been on in my life, I never seem to have drawn much satisfaction from it just at the end. It's something that you set out to do, And all your effort goes into doing it, and that's where you get your satisfaction, I think, just in doing it. When you've done it, it's a pity, really, because you've finished your effort. This is a hopeless question. Now, can I say this, that when you get a man off the sea after 4 months alone, you can't expect him to make what you regard as a sensible answer to a question. And when it's a very abstruse question like that, to me, it's even worse. So if we can agree on that, let's go ahead.
Right, let's have the next question.
Gerald Seymour, Independent Television News. Francis, this would seem to be far from a straightforward voyage. Could you tell us about some of the problems that you found on this voyage, particularly the sort of hazard of rounding Cape Horn?
Why do you ask me these so terribly difficult questions? Why don't you just say, do you cut your toenails regularly? something more simple like that. I could understand that, you see. I don't know. What? Give me a lead on this. Break it up somehow.
Did you find, Sir Francis, there were particular problems which you hadn't expected on this voyage, which you came across?
No, I realized before I started every problem that I met, and thank God I didn't meet some of the problems I realized before I started that I could meet. Go ahead from that, please.
Right, let's have the next question. Yes?
O'Neill, Sydney Daily Mirror, Sir Francis. In view of the fact that you look so well, could you do it again?
Well, not for a week.
Right, and the next question.
Welcome home, sir. My name is Christine Galton, Western Television.
I think it might be Mike. I can't hear what you're saying.
Sorry, West German Television, Christine Galton. So, just why did you do this voyage?
Oh, no, here we are. Off we go again.
Question was, why did you do it, Sir Francis?
I don't know. I could give, if you give me enough time, I could give you 60 answers to this. And every one would be true. How can I answer it just in one pop? You'd have to make it break it down again. You'd have to make it more simple than that. You'd have to. I can't answer that just in a second like that. Sorry.
Right, let's take the next question.
So I think I can get on without this possibly and make myself heard. Gordon Holman, Evening Standard, London. This very wonderful voyage of yours must have had some particular point which was outstanding. Was it the horn, or was it during that awful time when you nearly went on your side as you approached the horn?
You mean that it had some point, the most important point of the voyage, you mean? Most important.
What was the greatest test for you, sir, as a navigator and seaman?
All these questions, you know, you make me weigh up something. I can't weigh it up. I've got to... you have to make it more simple. How can I answer a question like that?
More terrifying or less terrifying than you expected?
The horn, I must admit, I was frightened down there in the southern waters. Sailing up here in the Atlantic, and in my experience, you have no conception of what goes on down in those southern waters. And if you'll only survive down there in a small boat by luck, just good luck. That's what you want to survive. Where do we go from there? I tell you, let me say this. But see, with this, look here, you're talking to somebody who's been alone for 4 months. Like somebody you bring up from a cave, you know, who's been stuck down there for 4 months and hasn't seen anybody on this. And you wouldn't expect me to be the slightest bit sort of normal or sane, you see. You must forgive me if I can't answer difficult questions. On the other hand, what I do say is probably what I really do feel, because when you've been away like a long time like that, you're apt to speak the truth as you see it. But it's probably a very simple sort of truth. It's a simple kind of language that you think in out there. Where have I gone from there? Where did I start from?
You're doing fine. Let's take the next question.
Sir Francis, George Clogg, Australian Broadcasting Commission. What did you think about when you went round the Horn in those terrifying minutes?
I thought it was distinctly overcrowded. There were aeroplane there and a ship, you know. One place where you feel you could have a little soliloquy, uninterrupted, you think would be off Cape Horn. So there. What? Did I pray?
Did you pray when you went around the Horn?
No. No, I didn't. The answer is no.
Right, let's take the next question.
Sir Francis, Race, Daily Telegraph. I'll ask you a simple question, Sir Francis. Did your beer last out, and how did you feed during the last 4 or 5 weeks of the voyage as you passed?
Did your beer last out?
No. I think there is a little beer left, but I was terrified to drink as much as I wanted to, because I always felt that the glass I had was the last glass, you know. But unfortunately, I think it's absolutely, there should be a law against it, that Whitbread should produce these kegs of beer with no meters on them to tell you how much is left. And here I had this gorgeous stuff. It really did improve all the way down, all the way along the route, and lovely golden liquid lying in the keel. And I was terrified to draw off as much as I wanted. Anyhow, that was an astounding success, and I believe there is a glass left, because the last one I had there wasn't much fizz in it, so I think it was coming to the end of the keg. If there's enough to go around, I invite you all to have some.
And I think the second part of the question, Sir Francis, was how did you feed during the last 4 or 5 weeks?
Well, I did very well, really. I had a fresh grapefruit for breakfast this morning. Can't complain about that. Actually, I found this grapefruit in a locker which I hadn't dared open since the start of the voyage 4 months ago because of the smell coming out of it. And there were some terrible things in this locker. And the reason why I didn't open it and investigate was that I knew it would be at least a 4 hours job to clean it out and wash it thoroughly and so on. So I left it alone. But I did dive in there, see if there was a bottle of something good there, and found this grapefruit. It was in perfect condition, and I had it for breakfast. Well, so I had fresh grapefruit. I always had my my fresh salad, green salad every day for lunch, which I grew myself. There's some down there if you want to try, left over. And what else did I have? I had plenty of potatoes and onions and things. I did very well, really. The trouble on a voyage like this, when you're left alone all this time, you get very, very finicky. You've got to find your food yourself and cook it yourself, eat it by yourself, and you get that way that you can hardly bear to do it. And something's got to be most attractive for you to start eating it. How's that?
Thank you very much, Francis. Right, let's have the next question. Yes, right.
Mounters and the Mounter Times.
Sir Francis, what did you think of the reception that greeted you this afternoon?
This is an astonishing thing to happen to somebody. Of course, in a way, I hope this won't sound blasé, but in a sense I knew something of this because when I was a flying man in 1929, I met something of this reception. So it wasn't absolutely strange to me. But it is a wonderful thing to be most humbling experience to be met by a reception of this sort. And it makes me feel that it's nothing really to do with me personally. It's some kind of an idea that people are that like and are applauding. You know, one is representing something. I must look into this. I don't know what the answer is at present.
Right, and the next one. Yes.
Robin Sharp, Australian Broadcasting. Sir Francis, you've referred in your reports to the mental strain of these months of loneliness. For example, citing the fact that you...